About my background. Um, well, it's very not too much that I have achieved in my life. So, born and raised in the heart of old Delhi, which is a place of heritage, and then went to a film school, started as a cameraman, then moved to Bombay and worked with a lot of foreigners on the foreign films, then as an assistant director, not as an actor at all. Though I was on Delhi stage for 10 years before I left Delhi, and then by some twist of fate, uh, jumped into acting and then have been acting ever since. Apart from running a company for 9 years where we produced television shows and wrote a lot of songs for Disney, some 70 songs for children, and some title songs for various TV series. Directed plays, directed Helen in Bombay, which was a big, exciting event. Then, with some commercial plays, traveled to the US, Canada, Dubai, the regular circuit, Sri Lanka, and all that. So, yeah, that's just about it, briefly. I teach occasionally. I do not define myself as an actor. I like to call myself a communicator because that opens up the possibility of using all kinds of mediums. I'm trained as a photographer, I'm trained as a writer, I'm trained as a filmmaker. So I do all these things apart from acting, which actually is the only thing which I'm not trained in. But that's the thing which I have done the most for the last 35 years on screen, on stage. And yeah, so that's about it.
So, taking from here your relationship with art.
My relationship with art. Um, well, art is like an umbrella, and everything falls under it. Various forms of art, and my primarily the field has been performing arts and filmmaking, sound recording, writing, which all falls under the umbrella of art. What I have not done is I have not painted. I have not created a sculpture. I have not attempted doing a mural, which is the classic definition of when we say art. But I don't think that, I don't define art as that. For me, art is anything that is happening. It's like, for me, everything that we do from the time we wake up till we go to sleep is theater. You know, everything is a theatrical performance for everybody, whether they are defined as actors or not. But all of us are performing all the bloody time from the time we wake up till we hit the sack again in the night. So while we are doing this journey day in and day out for as long as we live on this earth, we are part of this huge theatrical production, which is the human life. And art happens to be one of those slightly defining umbrellas which we walk with. Some of us walk with better looking umbrellas, and so therefore it gets defined more. And the others who think that they're outside that umbrella, they look at it and say, okay, wow, wonderful. But the whole need, basically the human basic need, which is the question I always pose to a lot of youngsters who, when I talk to them, I ask them, what is the most important thing in your life? Give me one word answer. So people come up with money, love, parents, sex, food, whatever. And then I tell them, how about saying the most important thing in your life is communication? If I give you all of what you just said and I take away your ability to communicate, where do you find yourself? Nowhere. Because all our rasas, all the emotions, the anger you feel, the hatred, the jealousy, the love, the affection, whatever you feel, desire, everything is forever asking for communication. You need to communicate it to somebody. Even if you do not like someone, you have to communicate by just not talking to them, or by turning away, or by not responding, or whatever. That's also communication. So we cannot do without communication. So when we say art, art is a slightly more refined way of communicating a thought which has occurred in your mind and you want others to have a look at it. And it's also open to an amazing plethora of interpretations. And those interpretations basically come from what each one of them has lived with so far up until that point in their lives. So, yeah, so basically, art, I think, like every other thing, is like I'm writing a paper on basically for acting, but it applies here as well, is that everything the human life we do in terms of creating something or whatever is divided into two parts. One is to do with the craft, which we learn from the ones who know better than us, and the other is sensibility. And this is my theory, and I firmly believe in it. So, craft is something that someone can teach you. Someone can teach you how to paint, how to dance, how to fall, get up, jump, or whatever. It's all craft. Sensibility tells you how much of it you have to do. And that sensibility is basically nothing but the whole lot of common sense that you have developed in your life up until that point, whenever you are trying to create something or interpret something. So, a marriage of sensibility and craft is what makes you a good communicator, is what I feel. I think it's a long bloody answer I gave to your one question.
It was a nice one though.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how did you get to know about Kalagoshti?
Well, I met you at my friend Vandana's house, and then this whole thing came up, and I hadn't met you before this. So the idea is exciting because I'm always open and very optimistic about, as I said, the communication is at the top of my mind. So I'm always open to how people are communicating to each other. How are they getting by in their lives? What are they saying to each other? What are they not saying to each other? So when you came up with this idea that we do this, and then this whole thing of collaborative exhibition where people are collaborating from different forms of art, that was exciting for me. Since writing is something that I enjoy the most, because it's a solitary exercise, so you can let yourself completely free with your imagination, imagine whatever, create a world of your own, and then try and put it in words. So when I put things in words, there a bit of craft comes in, which tells you which words to use and how to use them. But the concept of what I'm going to sort of eventually come out with is going to do with my sensibility, my common sense. So what is it that I think I must talk about, or I think it should be spoken about. So when you came up with this idea, it was exciting, and I said, okay, we'll do it. So place doesn't matter, people don't matter, because I feel that all of us, and I say it with very firm belief, that all of us walking on this earth, irrespective of our age, profession, region, religion, whatever it is, we are all equally capable. All of us are equally intelligent. Our life basically determines the pattern of our life, depending on where we are born and how we are educated and how we move around and all that. That fortunately, unfortunately, determines how much of that intelligence we use and in which areas of life, which is what makes human life interesting. So therefore, my interest in it.
So I'll drop the next question, which was, why did you decide to participate? You have already
Yeah.
answered that. So what do you feel about this collaborative process that we're going to do at Kalagoshti?
Well, I feel excited because, I spoke to my co-artist. Can I name her?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So my co-artist, as you said, then like make a choice and pick an artist. So I've seen Aarti's work, so I like what she does. So I decided on collaborating with her, and I'm grateful that she agreed as well. And so it's my words and her installation which she's going to come up with. So we had discussed another concept earlier, then we demolished that, then we came up with something else. And liminal space is what we are working on. So, which is an interesting thing, because liminal space is the ambiguous space which sits between defined spaces, which is very interesting because human life is pretty much like that. All of us live in that liminal space because you can never measure the density of it, the volume of it, the luminance of it. It just keeps redefining itself. You know that these certain definite spaces are there, which is to say your your family, your religion, your house, your job, your community, or whatever it is. Those are the defined spaces. But between those spaces, you exist. You are born, you grow up, you grow old, you die. All that happens in between, with so many colors churning together and giving more and more hues and shades to your life as you evolve as a human being. So yeah, so that's the fun of collaborating, and that's why I thought this would be an interesting thing. And I'm looking forward to what other artists are doing, because I don't really call myself an artist. I'm just a communicator, a simple, ordinary man with no special talent, absolutely none. The only talent I think I try to acquire all the time is to learn more and more about human life, and that's my subject of interest. Yeah.
And now, during this process of collaboration, you collaborating with your artist
Yeah.
friend, do you think there is any change in your thought process or the way you write or the way you deal with certain things? Any change?
What kind of change are we discussing?
Whatever. Have you felt any change? Because why I ask this question is because you have done this kind of an experiment before, and now you're doing it again. So when you do this kind of a collaborative thing, do you think there is any change in your thought process?
Uh, I don't know how to answer this, because I don't look at it as any change. The earlier, which you are also aware of, that wasn't really a very conscious collaboration. It was like an artist and I were planning to do together something, and then she doesn't live in India, so she would send me some random photos which she took on her phone, and I just felt this compelling need to write. So it started as a game. And then suddenly we had like 20 photographs, which she would send me a photograph. She also, at some point of time, did not obviously plan it. None of us planned it. She just sent a picture, and I wrote like a two-line verse in Urdu, Hindi, Hindustani, whatever. And she liked it, and then she kept sending me pictures, and I kept writing it. So it just became a game. And then somewhere along the line, she also became very cheeky, because she started sending me very difficult images, so which was challenging for me. So that way it was fun. So it kind of evolved, which is what I was saying earlier, this whole evolution of how people communicate. So that communication really was fun, because it was a recurrent thing. It kept happening over a period of time, and there was no definition of, okay, she's going to send me one image a week or one image in a month. It wasn't that. It was just random, sporadic. At any point of time, she would just send me, and the moment I would look at the image, I would suddenly be compelled to write, and within probably an hour or at the most a day, I would respond to her, depending on what I was doing, if I was busy and whatever. But with writing, I've always felt that I have done writing which was like a contract-based writing, where people tell you what to write about. How to write, of course, always remains with the writer, but what to write about. I feel little trapped in that, when you say what to write about, because there is very little left to your imagination. I think, as we were discussing art, it should not really be predefined by a subject, ideally. I mean, you should just think of something. The fact that you are thinking of a subject itself means what to create about. So if you think of a subject and say, fine, I'm going to create this piece as a painter or as an artist or as a dancer or as a musician or as a writer, and then somewhere along the way you decide a शीर्षक for it, कि यार इसका नाम ये रखेंगे. I don't think a lot of people first thing they do is decide कि अच्छा मैं इसका ये title रख के अब उस title पे सोचना शुरू करता हूँ. It's also a method. People must be doing that, employing that method. But I think most people must just be starting with something, because the thought starts like that naturally, and then you say अच्छा. Sometimes you pick one word or one expression from there and say, okay, this shall be the शीर्षक of my work, or the name or the topic or the title of my work. So yeah.
So what you said right now is very similar to what many abstract painters do. They just pour colors on the canvas, and then when the colors start flowing into each other, and then they decide कि अच्छा इसमें मुझे ये दिख रहा है. Now let me take this theme as my theme for my painting, and then develop the painting further. Very similar to that.
Ye dikh raha is a very interesting line that you just said. Just last evening, I was discussing with Vandana that the paper that I'm writing, I am also touching upon this point. Human life, any of us, anywhere, whenever we see something which is defined as abstract, let's say randomly clouds in the sky, okay, what is the first reaction of any human being, irrespective of where they come from, which language, which region, wherever they've grown up and all that? The first reaction is they start trying to identify the human anatomy in that. थोड़ा फेस जैसा लगता है ना, ऐसा लग रहा है कोई नाच रहा है, ऐसा लग रहा है घोड़ा जा रहा है, ऐसा लग रहा है कोई खड़ा है, ऐसा लग रहा है कोई बैठा है, so things like that, because human beings are most exposed to one and only thing, which is human body itself. Because that's the only piece of art they see the most in their lives, whether it's in the bathroom or it's in front of the mirror or it's in the eyes of other people when they interpret you, or whether you place yourself in a community, in a discussion, in a place. So at all times you are extremely conscious of what it is made up of, what are the components, what are the elements, what are the shades of it, what is the behavior pattern, all that. So human life is the most viewed subject by human beings. So which is why inevitably the moment we see abstracts, when we see abstract, even in abstract art, most people will try to look for something which is close to human body anatomy, human anatomy. Why? Because the thought is driven like that. No one say कि मुझे इसमें कविता दिख रही है. Nobody will say मुझे इसमें sadness दिख रहा है. Sadness होगा. It could be called a winter night, or a bright, happy, sunny day. Painting can be called that, and it will have those bright colors and things like that. But somewhere you will still relate it to if I was in it. Have I seen something as bright as this ever in my life? So there's always a connection that we make, and that connection will never go as long as human beings, are indulging in this thing called art, which is, I think, hugely, what shall I say, overrated. Yeah.
I would like to differ with you on this thing कि human form ही दिखता है, because for me I can see sadness, I can see thoughts, I can see अंदर क्या चल रहा है. So it might be different
Yeah,
for
I mean,
everybody.
this is
But
my
more or
opinion.
less-
Yeah,
more or
this is
less
my
the
opinion.
same, yeah.
Because see, like Komal Swar, you know that Komal Swar, जहाँ भी लगेगा वहाँ it will do something. Why? How these rasas, these ragas have come into being? Because people have tried this on people. कि अगर हम ये स्वर निकालें या ये सुर निकालें तो इससे क्या रिएक्शन सामने वाले में दिखता है, तो ये करके करके शुद्ध और कोमल का एक डिवीजन पैदा हुआ है और उसको एम्प्लॉय किया जाता है राग में, देयरफॉर गाने में एंड ऑल दैट. दिस सॉन्ग, वेरी ओल्ड, वेरी फेमस सॉन्ग, जाने कहाँ गए वो दिन, that din is a komal swar. So the moment that happens, it does something to your heart. So similarly, the colors do that on a canvas, So I'm not saying that you will look for that thing, but it's a reaction to something, which is also what happens. But largely, I'm saying people look for identifiable, because familiarity is what makes them most comfortable. That's the truth about human life. Whatever is familiar, you're most comfortable, even if it doesn't belong to where you live and what you do. Yeah.
So, anything you want to say about Kalagoshti? And the next question is, any message for the viewers, and also the viewers who are going to see our work on the social media? So, two questions.
Well, I wish all the very best to Kalagoshti, and I am looking forward, because I've never been part of this, so I'm looking forward to how this whole thing pans out, and more importantly, how people react to what they see, and I am actually nobody to give anyone an advice कि आपको ये करना चाहिए, ऐसे देखना चाहिए. I am learning forever, and I will continue to learn till my last breath, which is the fact. So all I can say is, perception is what makes anything different for us as opposed to for others, because life is all about perception, how we perceive it, how we perceive things. आपने कुछ बनाया है, मैं उसमें कुछ और देख रहा हूँ, हो सकता है. So, like in poetry, a very important thing is, which I learned from my father, who's a professor of literature, is that the expression has to be simple, the thought has to be complex, and which I religiously follow in my performing art, in my writing, in whatever. So, as far as possible, the language, the medium that you're using to communicate has to be really simple, so that वो सबके समझ में आ जाए. उसमें जो लेयर्ड कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है वो हर आदमी अपने पर्सपेक्टिव से लेके जाएगा, एंड दे विल बी चार्म्ड बाय दैट. समबडी विल से, अरे वाह वाह क्या बढ़िया पीस था म्यूज़िक का या गीत का या फिल्म का या आर्ट का. वहीं पे बात ख़त्म हो जाती है उसके लिए. किसी को लगता है कि इसमें वो बात भी कही गई थी, तो वो उसमें ही खुश है. सो इट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट ऑल, हाउ मच पीपल कैन टेक अप, एंड यू कैन नेवर डिफाइन. नो फिल्म मेकर कैन से, नो राइटर कैन से, नो आर्टिस्ट कैन से कि अब मैं एक पॉपुलर पीस बना रहा हूँ और इसको सब पसंद करेंगे. देयर इज़ नो सच हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल, बिकॉज वी परसीव डिफरेंटली, ऑल ऑफ अस. या.
Any questions?
No, I think this is fantastic.
Fantastic.
या.
Yeah, done.
ऑलराइट.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.